Man, I hope y'all got y'all tickets for the Ole Miss hype train in 2024, boy, because I already got mine. I'm already at the station. Somebody tell Lane Kiffin to come scoop me. I'm waiting on them. You better get your tickets soon before they sell out because they're selling fast. A lot of people are now starting to pay attention to what Lane Kiffin is building down there in Oxford, Mississippi, and he's building something absolutely terrifying. Ole Miss just got their first 11-win season in program history today, beating Penn State 38-25 in the Peach Bowl, and there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the future and the direction of this program heading into next season. You got Jackson Dart, who already is on my Heisman watch list for next year. Don't know about yours, but he had an incredible performance this afternoon against Penn State. He threw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 379 passing yards, and he was averaging 15.2 yards per completion. Not just is he one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, but he's probably the most underrated quarterback in college football going into next year. Then you got Quinshawn Judkins, one of the best running backs in America, and you got a talented and deep group of wide receivers, tight ends. You got everything on offense. And now, you know what Ole Miss is finally going to have that they've never had in the past? A great defense. They got the number 1 transfer portal class coming into next year, and they got Walter Nolan, the best defensive prospect out of the portal. You got a lot of great pass rushers, corners coming in. Let me tell you something. Ole Miss no longer is going to be a second-tier program in the SEC. They're going to be competing for the conference championship with Alabama and Georgia. There's no more reasons why Ole Miss shouldn't be able to compete for a national championship anymore. Lane Kiffin, the Lane train is chugging, and it's coming to a station near you. You have already recruited at a pretty high level. Are you bringing in top 10, top 5 recruiting classes every year? No, but Lane Kiffin has done a good job of being able to leverage NIL and the transfer portal and mixing that in with recruiting to build Ole Miss football up. And I think that next year's 2024 Ole Miss team is going to be ideally similar to what Florida State has been this season. Florida State, Mike Norvell, they built this year's team up the same way, recruiting and mixing that in with a couple of big additions from the portal. Pete Golden, I'm not really high on him as a defensive coordinator, but now he has all the talent to be able to run the style of defense that he wants to implement. Ole Miss only 2 losses this year came to Alabama and Georgia in blowout fashion. Their schedule next year isn't all that tough. You got a pretty easy slate for the first 4 games. Then you got to play Kentucky, South Carolina. You're going on the road to LSU. You should be undefeated coming off your bye week when you got to play Oklahoma. Like, Ole Miss, they're coming. And that Lane Kiffin hate train, it seems to have died down. A lot of people used to have a lot of animosity towards Lane Kiffin because of what happened at USC and Tennessee. But it seems like he now has become a lot of people's favorite coach in college football. I love this dude's energy. I love his personality. I love how he goes about handling recruiting in the transfer portal. He's having a lot of fun down there in Oxford. And for Ole Miss to beat Penn State the way that they did today was very impressive. Penn State didn't really have too many big opt-outs in this game. Their biggest opt-out was them losing Chop Robinson. And this offense, they had every answer for what Penn State was throwing at them defensively. Now, they did lose their defensive coordinator, but it doesn't really matter because Penn State still had the majority of their starters playing in that game defensively. They are a veteran team. You expect a better performance from that group. This is one of the best performances that Ole Miss offense has put on display this season, with the fact that they did this against one of the best defenses in college football this season. Ole Miss is coming, man. If you aren't on the Ole Miss hype train, you better get your ticket and you better get to the train station quickly because there's not about to be any more available seats. You see, this is a program that last season they won 10 games, and the year before last they won 10 games when they had Matt Corral at quarterback. Alabama, Georgia, the gap between them and the rest of the SEC is closing really fast because of you having more teams like Ole Miss taking advantage of the opportunities to use the transfer portal to make their roster just as good as what Bama's and Georgia is. This is a team that they've been building for the last 2-3 years. You got Jackson Dart, who is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. Hell, I probably would say he's the best quarterback going into this conference for 2024. Unless you want to argue and say Jalen Milroe or maybe Carson Beck, but he definitely is up there. Ole Miss has all the pieces now to be a championship team. They're going to be great up front on both sides of the football, offensive line, defensive line. You're going to have a really good pass rush. You're now going to have a dependable secondary. Y'all remember that LSU game? Holy shit. Lane Kiffin was sweating bullets on the sideline during that game, man. He was praying to the football gods that his defense was going to be able to get a stop. Next year, that's not going to be the same case. You're not going to have to pray anymore because you're going to have all the confidence in the world that not only are you going to have a really good defense, but your defense possibly could be one of the best in the SEC next year. And that's high praise considering how much great defensive play we normally see out of this conference on a year-to-year basis. For Ole Miss to get into the championship picture now, all they have to do is make sure that they continue to sustain what they've been doing the past 2 years with the playoffs expanding to 12 teams. Expanding the playoffs was the best thing that ever happened for a school like Ole Miss because now there's no reason why you can't insert yourself into that national title conversation. We saw what Alabama looked like this year. They beat you pretty handily. It was 24-10, but next season, with you having to only play Georgia and Oklahoma being your 2 toughest games next season, there's no reason why this team shouldn't be able to compete for the conference championship. Alabama's going to be really good. They got a lot of new faces that are going to be starting next year. Georgia still has majority of their team coming back. But the difference between you playing Georgia next year and this past season is that you have to play Georgia on the road. You get Georgia at home this year. You get Oklahoma at home in 2024 also. There's not really any excuses for why Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss not only can't win the SEC in 24, but why they can't make it to the playoffs and potentially compete for the national title. Hell, they're my pick to win the SEC right now. Bold prediction. Record this. Write it down. JT Sports has the Ole Miss Rebels winning the SEC championship for the 2024 college football season. You may say, oh, JT, you tripping, man. You drinking the Kool-Aid way too much. Like, Ole Miss has dominated the transfer portal for 2 straight years now. They've recruited at a top 15 level also. The talent's there. The coaching is there. All they need to do is be able to win against Georgia at home and Oklahoma and not have any stupid upsets, and they're going to be golden. I'm trying to tell you people, man, you better make sure you grab your ticket for the Ole Miss hype train because those tickets are selling out fast. I was thinking that they were going to be one of those under-the-radar teams that people overlook because they look at their helmet decal and they say, Ole Miss is never going to be good enough to win the SEC. But it seems like people are now starting to open their damn eyes and realize what Lane Kiffin is building down there. Let me know what you guys think about Ole Miss football going into 2024. New Year's is just around the corner at the time I'm recording this, and the New Year's resolution for Lane Kiffin has to be winning this conference, making it to the playoffs, and competing for a natty. This is a top 5, top 6 team going into next college football season. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. Remember that every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in.